Welcome back. Bowing to intense public pressure, police in Charlotte, North Carolina, releasing the police body and dash cam footage of Tuesday's fatal shooting of Keith Scott. I must warn you, these videos are graphic, so step away if you don't want to look at this. The video showing officers surrounding Scott, who has his hands at his side before shots are fired and he falls to the ground. Police also releasing their description of the events and pictures from the scene showing a handgun, ankle holster, and marijuana blunt. Scott's wife insisting he did not have a gun. He had a book in his hand. It wasn't a gun. Let's bring in two veterans of law enforcement right now. Jared Berguan, Chief of Police for San Bernardino, California, and John Mina, Police Chief for Orlando, Florida. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it. Chief Berguan, let me kick this off with you. Your reaction to what has taken place, and I guess characterize for us right now how you see things.
You know, I think it's an interesting time in law enforcement. We are dealing with this new dynamic of everything that we do is potentially captured on video. And that, of course, is kind of a scary time for cops. We say a lot that there's not a lot that's very pretty about the work that we do. And it's not pretty to have to go into communities and sometimes enforce the law and sometimes do the things that we ask very young men and women in some cases to do. And contrast it to previous generations, suddenly they're doing everything live on TV and being scrutinized for their every action. Scary place to be.
So, Chief Mina, is that dictating behavior in some regard? The fact that we all have our cameras and we're watching, is that changing behaviors in any way? How would you characterize the status of police in America today?
I do think it's changing behaviors. And remember, 40 police officers this year have been killed by gunfire, and our police officers have to make split-second decisions. These incidents happen in the blink of an eye. And remember, the officer doesn't have the luxury of going back and looking at the videotape and scrutinizing frame by frame. Should I have done this? Should I have done that? You know, the fact of the matter, especially in this case, is people need to comply with the commands of police officers. Police officers all across the United States run into people with guns, either legally owned or illegally owned, and those interactions are peacefully resolved because the people complied with the commands of police officers.
I mean, and then there are lasting effects as well. Chief Berguan, tell us about San Bernardino. I mean, the public watching what took place in San Bernardino and then knowing that this was someone inspired by Islamic terrorism, that also dictates how the public looks at things.
Yeah, I think so. So our experience here in San Bernardino is something that unfortunately is becoming somewhat commonplace across the country. Statistically still rare when you look at how large our country is and all the activity going on, but nonetheless we see incident after incident after incident of these Islamic-inspired terrorists, people that are acting out against unarmed citizens for their own ideological beliefs. It is our new reality. It is something that we have to deal with. From the law enforcement standpoint, what makes it a little frightening is that, as Director Comey said, we're not just looking for a needle in a haystack, we're looking for the needle within the needle, and that's a very tough place to be.
Well, I mean, and then there's the situation in Tulsa, Oklahoma, Chief Mina. You know, when you look at what transpired there and the officer being served with manslaughter charges, are there things that we need to be doing in terms of training for police?
Well, certainly training is a big factor, but remember, and I hate to comment on that case because that officer didn't have the luxury of looking back at the videotape, but training is very important for our officers, and I think that's something that many police departments have realized for years and years and years, and they are doing the training. But remember, these incidents happen in a split seconds.
Okay, so what do you want to hear from the leadership of the country, both of you? I mean, there has been a lot of conversation this year that the president and the administration does not give enough support to police forces around the country. Is that what you're feeling, and does that also play into this, that they're afraid to carry out their jobs?
Well, I think the message should be that our officers have an extremely difficult job. Give them the benefit of the doubt. You know, we're human just like everyone else. We're going to make mistakes, and it's just important to know that those mistakes will be thoroughly investigated. And as you've seen in the cases like Tulsa and other cases around the country, officers are going to be held accountable for their actions, although having some very, very difficult situations they deal with every day.
Final word, Chief Bergwan.
You know, I think our police officers would like to see some more support. Policing is changing dramatically. Policing today is far different than what it was when I started my career 24 years ago, and certainly different from, you know, the old timers when I started, who started 40 years ago. The great thing about this profession is that it continues to evolve, and it will change, it will modify, and ultimately we will deliver service in a way that our communities are willing to accept it. But at the end of the day, we've got to remember that debate has to be a common sense debate, and people are at the end of the day going to get the policing that they want. And everybody needs to be part of that discussion.
And it's a very difficult job. We know that you and your teams are putting yourselves out there every day, and we thank you for that. Chief Bergwan, Chief Mina, thank you so much for joining us this morning.